What's up, fellas? Leonidas here, and I wanted to talk to you guys about the NBA playoffs. I know some of you like the NBA. I like the NBA, so I want to talk a little bit about it. Ideally, I'd have done this video yesterday or really Friday, so I could have had it before the playoffs started, but I just need to work on my time management. But anyway, I'm not a big NBA fan. I'm a big football fan first. I like NBA second. NBA is probably my second. Yeah, basketball is my second favorite sport behind football. So after the NFL season ends, that's when I start watching basketball. Because during football season, I don't care about NBA because I got to watch all my football games first. But since the NFL season ended, I've been trying to watch some games, but one big reason why I don't like the NBA nearly as much as the NFL is because there's just so many damn games that just one individual game doesn't matter. So there's plenty of games where the players are just gonna kind of half-ass it, and then a lot of times they'll play like 2/3 speed because they got to save themselves for the playoffs. Because I remember watching ESPN First Take a year or two ago, they said, ideally the perfect season would be like 50 games. So it's less of just the players kind of going through the motions with some of the games because there's just so many of them and it's just a grind. So that's one reason why I just don't watch too many games. But I try to watch like 1 or 2 games a week because, pretty much every week there's a whole bunch of games. So I've been trying to watch quite a few games. So at least the games are competitive. It's pretty nice to just watch the guys play before the playoffs. So I can actually talk about what I see and just what's going on in the league and between each teams and some of the players. Okay, let's talk about the playoff brackets. I want to start off with the Western Conference first, and with the Golden State Warriors going against HC Portland Trailblazers. I think it's pretty much a wrap. Golden State's going to win that in 5 games. Portland's been struggling this season. I haven't watched too many games because they're on the West Coast and a lot of their games start at 10:30 and I'm going to bed at 11, so I can't watch some of their home games. And their away games are they're playing the East Coast team. I just haven't watched those games when they're playing the East Coast team over in the East Coast. So fortunately I haven't been able to watch them. I did watch Golden State a few games. Of course, they're the best team in the league. With Kevin Durant healthy, they just got so much star power. It's hard for any team to really handle them. So I think that Portland, when their struggles this season, they'll be able to pick up a game at home. But I think that's it. Hopefully they do keep some of the other games fairly close. But this is a 1-8 seed. Traditionally, the teams get blown out most of the time, so it shouldn't be that competitive. So I'm not gonna look at trying to watch each one of these games because probably 2 of these games are going to be blowouts for Golden State's favor. So, all right, then let's move to the Clippers and the Jazz series. And I've been listening to the AO podcast with Legend of Winning, Agent Zero, and Waffleman 60. And they've talked about how the Clippers, for whatever reason, they just collapsed in the fourth quarter. They talked about this like maybe a month or 2 ago. So after I heard them talk about how the Clippers collapsed for whatever reason, they just let teams come back in the fourth quarter. Sometimes they'll take a L because of that. So I did watch them play like soon after I listened to that podcast, and that's exactly what happened. I forget which team it was. If I looked at the schedule, I'd probably be able to pull it up. But yeah, they're beating this team by I think around 15-20 points. Then they let them creep up, and it was a pretty close game. I don't remember if the Clippers lost that game or if they won it, but it went quickly from like a big blowout to it's being pretty tight. So I was just thinking, man, if they're struggling like this now, and then with previous seasons, we've all been hoping that maybe they could give Golden State a run for their money. They've been getting injured. That it's not looking good for them to be able to reach the Western Conference Finals. And just haven't seen them or hearing those guys talk about how they just continuously collapse in the fourth quarter. That really does not bode well for the playoffs. But I did watch the first quarter of this game, but it started late, so I went to bed. But I did watch the highlights of it. And it was a pretty good game. It was really close. Even with Rudy Gobert getting hurt, I was thinking, man, maybe that's going to affect who I'm going to pick. Because I'm going to pick the Utah Jazz to upset the Clippers. Because even though they've did really good in the last like 8 or 9 games, that's what the commentators talked about during the game. They've been really good lately. The playoffs is just a whole nother season, even though they've been playing really good the last few games. This is usually the time when teams' flaws really start to come out, and it's in the playoffs. And with Rudy Gobert getting hurt and them still losing a game, that doesn't help them that much at all, especially since it's just a hyperextended knee, so he might be able to come back like in game 4 or game 5. So I don't think he's going to miss the whole series. And even though the Utah Jazz are young, a young team, haven't been in the playoffs that much with their star players that they do have, or the best players they do have, I just think the Clippers just ability to just let teams come back on them and make a blowout into a good game at the end. That's really gonna cause problems for them. It's really gonna end their playoffs season real quick. All right, so now let's move on to the Houston Rockets OKC series. This should be a really good series because we got the two likely candidates for the MVP heading off against each other, the Rockets versus the Thunder. I did watch one Thunder game late in the season when they were playing against the Denver Nuggets. They were getting beat fairly good by around 10-12 points, and they just kept scrapping and fighting. They were able to dig out a win. It was a pretty incredible win that they were able to pull out, because in the last like 5 or 6 minutes they just kept chipping at it. They got a few stops, and then they were able to get a few buckets, and then Russell Westbrook, he hit some crazy shot at the end to win the game. I think it's by like 1 or 2 points. It was a pretty crazy game to watch, because at first I was thinking, why am I still watching it? Because OKC was getting killed, but they were able to just scrap and fight, and I was just like, wow, that's pretty good. But Houston's been pretty surprising. I haven't watched any of their games, so I can't really talk too much about what I've seen them be able to do over the season, or just any one game, because I've just missed watching any of their games. But even though some guys have talked about how the teams are kind of similar, with they got one star and just a solid group of guys around them, I think that the Rockets are going to be able to beat the Thunder. I think they'll beat them in 6, because even though the record's a lot better, OKC, they got some good big guys. They have Steven Adams, and they got some other guy, I forgot his name, but I think they'll be able to give the Rockets a good run for the money, and they'll pull out 2 wins. But they're not. I don't think they're going to play well enough throughout the whole series to be able to beat the Rockets, especially since Russell Westbrook has just such a high usage rate. He's a ball handler, and he just takes so many shots that it's going to be a little easier for the Rockets to handle him and double team him to force somebody else to beat him. Because I mean, when one player just has that much of an impact on the game and on his team, it's a little easier for the good teams to say, okay, when he does this action, or when they run these types of plays, this is where we're going to come in and bring out a double team. So he's going to miss some of these shots that he would make in the regular season, especially since the pace is a little bit different, and Each possession matters a lot, so I think that the Rockets are really going to be able to just do some simple double teams a little more. So they're really going to give Russell Westbrook and the Thunder a really hard time. They're going to be able to take them out. Then with the Spurs and the Memphis Grizzlies with the 2-7 seed, I think the Spurs are going to handle the Grizzlies fairly easily. They're going to beat them in 5 games. I did watch pretty much all of this game, and the Spurs, they just clamped them up like no other. I mean, the Grizzlies, I think the Grizzlies, their problem is still they don't score enough points. I think it's because they're a defensive team and they play really slow paced. So if a team's good at clamping down on them, they really have no shot to win. Because they're, of course, when you clamp up a team, then you start going on a fast break. That's what the Spurs did a lot, was they forced Mike Conley to miss a whole bunch of shots. I think he also needs to take a little bit more layups instead of them floaters, because he missed quite a few floaters. And then Zebo, he missed a lot of shots, so he needs to get in the paint a little more too, try to draw some fouls. So that's also what I saw. Because sometimes you got to watch the game to see what problems teams are having. And that's one thing, is those two guys, and I think even Gasol. Actually, I watched half this game. I don't watch the whole thing. I missed it because I was at work. But that's what I saw, is Gasol. He wasn't really taking a lot of shots in the paint, but he did score 32 points. But that was one thing, is they weren't getting a lot of layups. And if they're not getting a lot of layups because the Spurs are playing good defense, try to draw a few fouls. They weren't doing that either. So then the Spurs just started to run away with it, and it was just a big blowout. And then I think it was just backups playing, and start in the middle of the fourth quarter, maybe even like 2/3 of the way in the fourth quarter. It's just bench players, so it's kind of hard to say, what. So some of what happened with just the backups isn't gonna affect some of the other games, because there's just the backups playing. There's a lot more backups playing than normally would be playing, especially if the game's tight. So I think I'm gonna wrap it up with there. Just talk about the first round, and then I'll just do the next rounds as the series ends. All right, so I love you guys, and thanks for watching.